Here we are, boys, back again with another Gyre build video. I did release a few Gyre build videos back in the days, and those were sort of min-max to the point where you had 100% armor strip and you dealt insane amounts of damage with your fourth ability and were able to upkeep that damage while you were on the move and shredding everything in sight. But ever since the release of Whispers in the Walls, the new Archon Shards were released. The purple shards. And I swear to God, there were so many people coming in my chat saying, bro, why don't you do an updated Gyre build using the purple shards? And I said, why? Like, why? They're just purple shards. It's a small increase in damage, and I was right to a certain point. I didn't think too much of them because I didn't know that they were multiplicative, as in they were essentially a roar slapped onto your Gyre without even needing the Helminth ability Roar. But even after I found out that they were pretty much Roar, is there really need to make another Gyre build video? It's literally the same thing, just slap on some Archon Shards. But then I thought to myself, we could milk some content. So here we are with an updated Gyre build video using purple shards. Has the build changed at all? No, it's just the same build. I just put Archon Shards and change it. Let's have a look at what we're dealing with. But at the same time, people might have forgotten that video existed. It's in the ether, and there are new people in the channel, and there are new Gyre players. To understand how Gyre and this build works, I have to go over her passive and her ability interaction. Gyre is currently the only Warframe that gains critical chance and crit damage on her abilities from status effects. She gains a flat 10% crit chance on her damaging abilities per electric status effect, affecting individual targets. And you deal 2 times the critical damage against those enemies. Meaning you want to prioritize proccing multiple electric procs on a group of enemies to boost your outgoing damage. It's pretty straightforward. However, this crit chance increase has a cap of 300%, which is red crit territory. And I know everybody in Warframe likes those red crit territories, you know what I'm saying? So yes, her abilities can red crit and reach a 4 times critical damage boost against those enemies. However, priming alone is a bit too much. That's where her third ability comes handy. Cathode Grace. This ability grants you weapon and ability crit chance along with energy regen. The crit bonus you get from your weapons is modded crit chance, not a flat increase. And it is additive to your modded crit chance values present on your weapons. So meaning, if you have a point strike or whatever, this ability will be additive to that. And if you have no crit mods on your weapon, it will function as a mod itself, scaling off your base values. So combining Cathode's Grace and her passive, she can increase the overall ability crit chance, allowing to hit the maximum of 300%. And it's fairly easy. Also, Cathode's Grace is on a timer along with a 60-second cooldown. And to upkeep this ability, you have to get direct kills with Gyre or kills on enemies affected by the electric status effect, or even have allies assisting you in those kills. The main way Gyre deals damage and kills enemies is with her fourth ability, Rotorswell. This ability deals AoE electric damage and triggers the electric AoE Tesla effect that causes a chain reaction of electric procs stunning enemies and dealing the electric damage over time. That's if it doesn't kill them before all of that. At the same time, you gain a movement speed increase. But Rotorswell has another mechanic, a discharge. When you inflict a crit with your weapons or abilities, you release a lightning discharge that chains outwards, hitting targets within a 10-meter radius. But of course, this radius is increased with range mods. This discharge does have a small line of sight check though, and the discharge has an ICD of 1 second before it can discharge again. But guess what? There is a way that takes the edge of all of these 2 abilities, while making Gyre way better to play. And that, of course, is a mandatory augment. Introducing Cathode's Current. While you have this augment on, you can release an additional discharge from Rotorswell, while extending its duration with enemies killed. And it also grants Rotorswell's discharge damage a 200% damage increase. So what I'm saying is, if you don't have this augment, you're playing Gyre with a massive handicap. Now, as you know, Gyre deals electric damage with Rotorswell, and you boost the damage with Cathode's Grace and the augment Cathode's Current. This is electric damage. Now, electric damage does suffer when it comes to armor. Now, how are we going to deal with that armor? Easy, thanks to the Helminth ability, Pillage. It's funny how this ability is way better on other Warframes than the Warframe it came from. Pillage is Hildren's second ability. This ability itself sends out a wave, a pulse wave that is, that strips enemies' shields and armor, and then brings it back to you, granting yourself shields and even boosting your shields into overshield territory. But at the same time, it cleanses you of status effects and strips armor. You need to have 400% strength to get a full armor strip. But you may have noticed, it only says 83%, and we only have 332% strength. How are we able to get a full strip with Pillage? Are we using Molt Augmented? No. Are we using Matterite to boost the armor strip? Absolutely not. All you have to do is use a specific aura mod, Corrosive Projection. This reduces the armor strip requirement from 400% all the way down to 328%, making Pillage a lot easier to deal with, so you don't have to cast it multiple times to get a full strip. And for those wondering between Pillage or Terrify, here's the thing. Pillage does require a bit more strength, but it offers you a lot more utilities than Terrify. Terrify will have enemies run away from you. And another thing is that Terrify cannot armor strip acolytes. So that is a big downside to that ability. But Terrify doesn't require to have so much strength or double cast, and at the same time, it doesn't have that line of sight requirement. So it's up to you on what you want. Pillage just offers a lot more utility and better survivability, while at the same time building up enough strength so then your Rotorswell can deal even more damage. Now that we know how Cathode's Grace, Rotorswell, and Pillage interact with one another, let's have a look at what these Archon Shards actually do. With one Violet Shard, this is what happens when you put red and blue together. Gain 10% ability damage on enemies affected by the electric status effect. This electric status effect can come from anywhere, from Gyre's abilities themselves or a primer. I would highly recommend to have 2 Talforge versions, because then you can have 30% instead of just 20%. And let's thank Kuleva here, who donated those 2 purple shards. I also have 2 energy shards here to increase my maximum energy. This energy increase gives me enough so I can cast both Cathode and Rotor at the same time without losing too much. And finally, the last Archon Shard is a Crimson Shard to top off my strength, because without this, I will be under that 320% mark. And the build requires every little bit of mods in there just to make it worthwhile and more fluid to use. But there's a few things that you can change if you want. Now, for a primer, I recommend 2 things. One of them is being a Booba Nico. Booba Nico has viral damage on its alternate fire, and if you put one electricity mod, you get viral and electric without doing anything extra. So that's a win-win right there. However, shotguns don't have a prime firestorm or a prime fulmination, so that reduces the explosion radius. So that's why I'm using the tractor cannon, aka the Epitaph. The Epitaph can be modded with viral and electric, but at the same time, it has additional status effects, where you get cold and blast, where you can reduce enemies' accuracy and at the same time slowing them down, while increasing your critical damage with cold procs. However, cold procs can be a little bit annoying with this particular loadout. Let's have a look at our primer. You have Amalgam Barrel Diffusion just to give me that dodge speed, which will be really nice later on. Lethal Torrent for some fire rate and multi-shot, so these are multi-shot increases. Viral and Electricity. You can also swap out Gunslinger for Anemic Agility. I actually have enough here to go with Anemic Agility, but some people don't like that because they feel like they click way too hard and end up doing a charge shot rather than its quick fire, because all you want to do is shoot your quick fire. And with Prime Fulmination, you increase that blast radius to 11 meters, which is huge. And finally, Sure Shot for that status chance increase. And no, you don't want Galvanized Shot. Galvanized Shot is a damage increase, not a status chance increase like Sure Shot is. This is full on 90%. This is 80%, while it gives you bonus damage with enemies affected by additional status effects with the weapon itself. And of course, you have Prime Pistol Ammo Mutation, that's a better choice. And the Arcane literally doesn't matter. You can use whatever Arcane you want. I highly recommend Conjunction Voltage, because on Electricity status effect, you gain reload speed, but multi-shot. So this will be really nice for a Gyre loadout. And for the Focus School, I am using Madarai. Madarai has two things that we're using. We have Sling Strength to increase our strength on the initial cast, which gives us 40% strength, and this snapshots to everything that we cast during its 20-second duration. And finally, Power Transfer, giving us a 50% casting speed when we transference back into our Warframe. And for the utility weapons, I'm using my Praetos, which is only used for its sprint speed, slide, and parkour velocity. I'm using a rifle, and the rifle in particular here is the Miter. All I did was put Amalgam Serration and have Neutralizing Justice. That's if I go into a corrupted map that has nullifiers. So as I said, you can use your Miter to pump nullifier bubbles, but then there are cases where Violence spawns in and now you don't have your abilities to kill Violence, or even Stalker. For some reason, he disables abilities. I have the Miter here. Looking at the evolutions, I got that one, this one, and this one. And you can have a build where it's just for killing acolytes, and it's modded for corrosive here, as acolytes have fairer armor and they take more damage to corrosive. And this also has Amalgam Serration while also having Neutralizing Justice to deal with nullifiers. Also, for those who don't like to use the Miter and don't really care about dealing with nullifiers or not fighting against nullifiers, or don't care too much about Amalgam Serration, I highly recommend the Phantasma. The Phantasma can offer you some additional juicy utilities, one of them being Primary Exhilarate. When you proc an impact status effect, you get energy regen. And the best part is, Phantasma's alternate fire can proc impact, guaranteed impact. And you can also mod this for viral and electricity. So you just replace that Scattering Inferno into a Shell Shock. Boom, you got viral and electricity. You just alternate fire, you get energy regen with Primary Exhilarate. That's it. It's so good, it's so easy, but it does require you to do a little weapon swapping if you want some additional energy regen. So these are some alternatives that you can use. And finally, we're going to have a look at our companion, being Cordon, aka Nautilus, because this is all he's good for. Cordon will pull in enemies within a 30-meter radius. This doesn't need, and it doesn't even require line of sight, but it does have a 15-second cooldown. And remember, we're using the Epitaph, and that's proccing multiple status effects on targets. And when you kill enemies inflicted with 3 or more status effects, it reduces the cooldowns of Sentinel abilities. So Manifold Bond, the Epitaph, it refreshes Cordon pretty fast. At the same time, I do have a Mystic Bond. So after the companion uses 5 abilities, you may cast a Warframe ability without expending energy. So the more we refresh Cordon and the more times that our companion actually deals damage with Assault Mode, because this is also a cooldown, we actually can get a free cast on our abilities. And notice, we have other ones as well. Guardian, Shield Charger, and Mediray. So now let's go into Steel Path Survival to show you how this build actually works step by step. Here we are in Steel Path. As I'm refilling my energy, let me talk about how I initiate my attack. Number 1, go into your operator. Your operator, as long as you transference back in and out, will give you Power Transfer. Power Transfer is a casting speed increase on your Warframe. You can also perform 2 Void Slings. These 2 Void Slings will grant you 40% strength thanks to Sling Strength, so we get 2 bonuses. Now let's initiate our attack, and also I'll be using the map overlay because I'm going to be killing everything in sight, as I won't be paying attention to anything except the red dots. So 2 Void Slings, wait for the enemies to spawn, cast my 4th, 3rd, Pillage, and boom. There we go. Look how much we've killed, and we built up our Cathode Grace and Rotorswell. Also, another thing you have to know about Pillage. Pillage does have a travel time, And you can cancel this travel time by recasting the ability once again. And it also has a line of sight check. Alright, that's pretty cool. I just got Arcane Steadfast. This will give me 3 free energy casts, so I don't consume any energy with my abilities 3 times. But I also got Mystic Bond and Arcane Steadfast. One of them will always take priority over the other. Boom. I used an ability and Arcane Steadfast got consumed because it was the one that procced first. However, when both of them proc together, Mystic Bond will usually take priority. Here's an Eximus. Look how much we're shredding the Overguard. Boom, dead. Let me just make sure to use my Miter and charge this Incarnate Meter. Also, you may have noticed my Pillage is a bit slow. I can just go in and out of my Operator. Go in and out of Operator every 20 seconds. I don't know who will remember to do that most of the time. I also forget doing that. But I feel it when it's slow, so I just instinctively go in and out of my Operator. Prime, Armor Strip, dead. Always want to make sure to prime them because that increases your crit. Overguard, shredded, dead. Notice how I'm not having any energy issues thanks to Archon Stretch, Mystic Bond, and Arcane Steadfast. Also, let's not forget Arcane Energize. Surprisingly, okay, I was going to say we still haven't got an Acolyte. That's phenomenal. All right, let it be violent so I can actually demonstrate. Okay, it's this guy. He's going to die fairly easily. Oh, wait, he can summon Shadow of Violence. Look how fast we stripped his shields and armor. Don't forget to prime. And boom. Yeah, Gyre will just shred everything right now. You don't need weapons unless you get cucked by violence. Okay, back in the Orbiter. Let's take a look at that Gyre build. Reminder. Pillage is our Helminth, using purple shards to boost our electric ability damage. Materai, Miter, and let's have a look at that build. In the Aura, I have Corrosive Rejection. This reduces the requirement of that 400% strength for a full strip down to 328. My modded strength at 332% with that 1 Archon Shard, Umbral Intensify, Transient Fortitude, Blind Rage, and Augur Secrets. Range at 175% with Archon Stretch and Augur Reach. Now, these abilities aren't energy draining abilities, so that's why I can continue to gain energy back with Archon Stretch. And of course, don't forget your augment, Cathode's Current. Rolling Guard for that status cleansing and 3 seconds of invulnerability. And of course, if you don't have PSF, just use a time machine. For our arcades, I have Arcane Energize. This is a nice boost in energy when I pick up an energy orb. And finally, Arcane Steadfast. With a 20% chance, I get 3 free ability casts, which is really nice, which pairs really well with Mystic Bond. And Mystic Bond is a layer on top of that, and depending on which procced first, either one will take priority. So you can have 4 free ability casts. Alright folks, this is the Gyre build. The updated Gyre build, where we just slap on some purple shards, have a new companion loadout, and boom, things change. Anyway, folks, that has been it from me. I do hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video, and if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.